Ignition sequence start.
Gordon for three.
Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
Boy who lived. Come to die. Drink.
And if you want it, and if you want to work hard enough for it, it can be so.
3, 2,
1.
Welcome back to the last podcast on Earth. I am your host, Mr. Robot, with my co-host here,
Skywalker.
What's up, man? So, Game of Thrones episode
3.
3? 3.
Yeah, is episode 3 Battle of Winterfell, I assume? I didn't actually see the title.
I was just so, we're at the point now where I'm, just so ready to go with Game of Thrones. I'm not even looking at the title, not looking at what episode we're on. I'm just, locked in, ready to go. So, right off the back, this is a spoiler take on the episode 3 of Game of Thrones.
If you have not watched it, please do so.
If you haven't watched it, please watch and then return back to the podcast. Right off the bat, Skywalker, what'd you think?
Whew. Man, this is tough for me because I really liked a lot of elements, and then there's some parts I was just kind of over. I kind of want to get your take first, hear what you have to say, and then we can go into my take.
All right, that's fine. So, classic. So, my, right off the bat, so the way the episode starts out, you got these long, sexy shots of Winterfell, what's going on. There's this intensity, and I was actually paying attention to the clock, and it took around 4 to 5 minutes before something significant happened. It was a lot of establishing shots, and that build up, and I really enjoyed throughout this episode a lot of the silent moments. There was a lot of silent moments that just let the environment breathe and let the characters breathe and let those pause and takes and have those moments. But what I thought overall of the episode, I actually thought this was a big miss, and I'm really disappointed. And the reason why I say that is, well, we just jump straight to the ending. So the way the White Walkers are, and I'm not going to say definitively because who knows what's going to happen, have been defeated was through Arya Stark, a very valiant, honorable character, someone everyone loves, but it didn't feel poetic, if that makes sense.
It didn't feel earned.
It didn't feel earned. It didn't feel. I felt, Bran was doing his thing throughout the entire time. I was under the impression that, Bran had this bigger meaning, or Bran was there for some reason, or that maybe the Night King would touch Bran, and all of a sudden that meant something would be revealed. For a moment, I even thought, because my original take was that the Battle of Winterfell would be one episode, the White Walkers would be done. But I was actually hoping that I was wrong. I was like, this might actually make sense to kind of build out into 2 episodes. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So here we are now. White Walkers are complete. Arya Stark was the one to defeat the Night King. But it didn't feel earned. That's kind of my initial take. And I feel that a lot of people will be disappointed because, again, it felt like Jon was kind of very Superman, he didn't die. It felt like a lot of the main characters who you assume were going to die did not die. My original number, I said there was going to be 2 deaths in this entire sequence. There was 4 total. Lady Mormont, Ser Jorah,
Jorah Mormont,
Ed.
So that family group is done.
Right, Ed, and the 4th was...
you had, what's his name? You had Theon die, and Beric.
And Theon, right.
The soldier of the light, I guess, the guy with the flaming sword.
Oh, so that's 5, actually. That's 5.
The leader of the Brotherhood. That's
right,
his
so that's 5, and...
I think that is 4. It's Theon, Ser Jorah, Lady Mormont, and Beric. I count as 4.
Ed died as well from the
wall. From the wall? Oh yeah, true.
Right, that was 5. So, but again,
only one of them was a pivotal character, and
correct,
Mormont, and
correct.
And you could argue that he really isn't a pivotal character. He's more of
totally.
a side character.
Correct, yeah. So that's my initial take. I was very disappointed, and I felt like, I made the take already that, it's about the throne, it's not about the White Walkers, but there is so much attention and detail towards Bran and, like, what Bran's role in this is, and the Lady of the Light.
Yeah.
But I think what is interesting is perhaps that maybe there is some dichotomy with the red woman and the red people and the fire people with the White Walkers. I'm not quite sure what it is fully, but I feel like there might be some relationship there, because as she walks off into the sunset, she becomes her true self, her old self, and she passes away. And I don't know, I just felt that it left a very empty space in your mouth, and I thought the writers would give us a bit more, like, punch for what we paid for. Yep. And it doesn't feel very satisfying. And again, if Arya was the one to do it, totally fine, but it has to be earned. It has to be earned. And it felt throughout the entire series that Arya's character almost had no relation to the White Walkers, which makes it even more interesting. So.
I think, honestly, I thought I was going to be the only one coming into this podcast disappointed. So it actually surprises me that you are, not to say that we had different expectations going to the episode, but, like, in my previous take, you know how, like, into the White Walkers I was,
right?
And how they just took so much time to consistently establish that this is essentially the end of man, the end of the world. Right. They say it time and time again. So, I'd come to peace with the fact that the White Walkers had to be defeated this episode, but it really came to the point where there was a lot of spectacle. There were a lot of really cool cinematic fights and these amazing set pieces. The budget in this episode was insane. But if you think about it, it never truly felt like anyone was in danger. Because, like, it did at the beginning, but then time and time again, they'd have these scenes where you have these characters that we love and enjoy are pushed up against the wall, covered in zombies, and, like, somehow they're not dying when all these other people are going down quickly. I thought it would have, when the battle first started, the scene where all the Dothraki, they get the fire swords, and I was like, okay, now...
Oh, man,
I'm like,
that was terrifying. Let me just jump in and say that. Yeah. When those lights started coming out, I was like, whoa, this is... Like, how are they going to get out of this?
Well, when I first saw it, I thought that when all their fire... The swords were all given fire by Lady Melisandre, I was like, okay, the scale is kind of tipped in their favor. But then when they all ran out and immediately died, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then when you saw, like, the tidal wave of White Walkers just rush over the front lines, I was like, this is crazy. I was just blown away. I was not prepared for that. And I thought that would have been an amazing moment. If they had just cut down some of the characters that were outside the wall, like, immediately, not given us the chance to even, like if that would have been a major gut punch, and that would have really shown, like, from the jump, they would have set the tone that, like, this is, people are gonna die.
Yeah.
And they never did that. The only time they showed stakes were with characters that didn't really have a purpose. So I was incredibly disappointed. And even at the ending, like, so I thought Jon was gonna fight, I thought Jon and the Night King were gonna at least duel when they first encountered each other. I thought that would have been cool. I was hoping that the Night King would just kick his ass and then move on. I thought that would have been... Because they've had that dynamic. For them to never cross blades was completely... It was so disappointing.
I thought that in that moment as well, that I thought that would have been a great moment for Jon to be like, I'm a Targaryen, because when Daenerys comes down and shoots her, she says Dracarys, and the dragon blows its fire. I thought that would have been a great moment for the to have her light fire on Jon and him not catch fire because he's a dragon. Similarly to. Go ahead. Yeah, you can go.
No, I'm gonna. Yeah, sorry. I wanted to piggyback because now I never even thought of that. Yeah. So I bring that point up. How cool that would have been if he was fighting the Night King and the Night King was about to, like, kill him, but then she shot fire down on him. That would have been like a super shock moment. So whereas you see, like, the fire goes away, the Night King's not dead, but neither is Jon. You're like, oh my god, he really is a Targaryen.
Right.
That would have been a dope spectacle.
And that's where I thought they were going with it. And I didn't want necessarily Jon to win that fight, but I wanted it to be like, okay, Jon gets out of that scot-free, and it actually makes sense because, again, he's a Targaryen. He won't catch fire. But they didn't do that. And then, so that whole scene with Theon. Actually, we didn't even mention. Yeah, Theon died.
Yeah, Theon died. Yeah.
Did you say that?
Well, we did mention it in the body count, but we haven't gone into detail yet.
Well, yeah. So Theon sacrifices himself, very honorable. I even felt, his journey deserved more than that, because I felt Theon is a character who went from Theon, part of the Stark family, the misfit. Kind of like, it almost felt like he was the bastard, not Jon in the family.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he went from that to Reek, and to this despicable character we couldn't believe. Like, how could you even come from House of Stark, to realizing he's not from House of Stark? He comes from this even more powerful, this even more honorable place where your name isn't enough. You have to earn it,
Yeah.
And he had this huge character arc where he became this, like, character where you're like, you know what? This guy has earned his stripes. He's back with his family, his true family, who he feels is his family, not just the name. Yep. And that's actually something very honorable about the Greyjoy house. Is I feel like his sister and, the Greyjoy house, I bet you they find it more honorable that he went to fight for the Starks than home, because they're listen, you're fighting for what you believe in. That's all they ever really cared about. So I felt him dying the way he did not sit right with me, because I was like, this is a character who, really has come a long way, and he deserves a bit more than to go out like that. And I also didn't really love how Ser Jorah kind of like Superman his way in to save Daenerys at the end there.
I agree.
Felt like
I definitely
there was
agree.
no stakes. This episode was
very
strange, and there was a lot of opportunity to kill off some main characters. And I thought, like I just said, like, you don't have to kill Jon off right now. And I thought the smarter way to save him would have been set him on fire, because he's a Targaryen, it doesn't work. But you can't just have these moments where, like, people are jumping out of nowhere. There's no stakes, yeah. And it's just crazy.
To piggyback off what you're saying, I completely agree. At the beginning, there were moments where people were surrounded, and I'm like, oh my god, how are they going to get out of it? But the first time that someone was saved in that scenario, I stopped caring. Every time someone was backed against the wall, I'm like, totally. I have no reason to believe they're going to kill you. I have no reason to believe that the writers have the balls to kill you. And I think that's crazy. And I'm incredibly disappointed, because the entire show, like everything that George R. R. Martin has written up until season 7, made you fall in love with these characters, but you believed at any moment that they could die. And when it comes time for winter finally shows up, and literally death is at your doorstep, and for me not to be convinced that anyone's in actual danger, I think it's a total failure on
it
just
takes you
on the thematic
out of the world.
On how they've thematically created this show up until this point. So there were some fantastic set pieces, don't get me wrong. There were some cool, like, Saving Private Ryan moments where, like, there's all this fog and you're like, oh my god, what's going on? And they're like, I do think that, the way Arya killed the Night King was kind of cool. She pulled a Winter Soldier, dropped the knife.
But that was
like,
awesome.
tell me why all the dead are surrounding Bran. They've come in there, they've killed everybody. One of the White Walkers looks behind him, and then suddenly Arya's behind the Night King.
Okay, first off, let me answer that really quickly. So, I believe I watched the episode with my girlfriend, and she kind of had that same moment. And what I kind of thought was the Night King was kind of like, look, that's why he raises his hand to say stop fighting. Which I thought if you're gonna have Brienne of Tarth die, Jaime, Jon, any of these guys. The way you make it honorable, the way you make it respectable is the Night King, right before they're going to die, raises his hand to say, let's stop the fighting because we've won. And then that moment you go, okay, that makes sense. That's believable. That's a reason for them not to die, because he made it on his own terms. Yeah. Not because you won, because he decided this fight is over.
Exactly, yeah.
And so that was my perception, was that he had decided this fight was over, and he was so focused on Bran that he had this mishap. But I don't think it makes sense for the character, because I don't think the Night King would have. I don't think he would have let his guard up like that unless he knew for sure he was going to win. Yeah, and I think if Arya, let me talk about Arya for just 2 seconds here before I let you go on. I am so disappointed that Arya didn't use her many face moves once. I was under the impression that she was gonna use her face as a White Walker to distract him and then kill him. Something. Or
that would have been actually very cool.
That
I don't
would've
know,
been
like I don't
it
know how
would've made
possible
sense.
that
It
is,
just-
but they could have totally writ that in just to make it
Right.
cool. It would have made. Yeah, I agree with you.
It doesn't make sense that she walked in so smoothly, jumps behind. But when he did choke her, I thought if the writers would have killed Arya right in that there moment, it would have fixed almost all of the
That
other
would have
problems
blown
with the
my
stakes.
freaking mind.
Because we would have been like, oh my god, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's just to think that they've built up this character, a character who is as old as time, who has had all this time to prepare for how he's going to kill the three-eyed raven and bring about the new age of death or the end of man. For him to just completely be like ambushed like that and just utterly embarrassed. Like he didn't even get a cool fight scene with anybody.
No,
like
no,
he threw one ice spear at Daenerys and he missed. And also, could we talk? Okay, actually, I'm gonna stick on this because I got some stuff I want to talk about Daenerys as well. Because she's Louise. But like, yeah, no, like Arya comes in out of nowhere. We have no foresight on her being the one to kill the Night King until the lady in red just tells her that. Like you said before, you mentioned before that there's been no foreshadowing that she's the one that was supposed to kill
Can I
him.
ask you a quick question on that?
Go for
So, as we were watching, so Melisandre had said, like, you know, like, she's like, oh, we had crossed paths before. In that moment, I thought the perfect way to make it satisfying and that Arya was a right person was I feel Melisandre should have been the mini face man. And he should have taken his face off in that moment and been Melisandre. Because there was no connection whatsoever. I don't has
No, they have crossed paths before.
What was it? Because I couldn't think of it. I really couldn't remember.
I don't know. You watched the show. You just binge watched the entire series to catch up.
I did just binge watch it.
So I'm surprised you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. And I thought so. The mini face man is just gone. And like I did want this. I did want this to be the final episode. Let's just drop the White Walkers, move on to the politics, the battle. Yeah. But it almost feels now, and I don't know if you saw the preview for the next episode.
I don't watch the previews for the next episode.
Okay, well I did,
like to go in
and
cold.
let me tell you, it seems like we're going even more downhill from where we are right now, and and I know it's tough to end a season that you've had for 12 years, but after watching Avengers Endgame this weekend, I don't buy that this is the ending that we deserve. I don't buy it.
No, I'm actually very afraid for how the show's going to finish because, dude, I can't even stress how, like, this is a worse fumble than the friggin' fumble at the goal line that Cleveland gave up against the Broncos all those years ago.
Or the Seahawks against our Patriots.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a situation where, like, now I don't know what to care about because all these characters are still alive. They're potentially at full strength, to be honest. They lost, like, a couple of side characters.
Yeah, seriously.
So, like, is the Lannister army really going to be that? Or is the Golden Army really going to be scarier than the dead? If we live in a universe where normal people are more of a threat than the undead, then I don't know. I think the series failed thematically.
It's impossible to believe that Cersei could possibly win. But now we're kind of going into that cheesy phase of, like the good's gonna win. It's gonna be pretty clean. And what I've been quoted for all weekend is Ramsay Bolton saying, if you think that this is going to end happily, you haven't been watching. And that's kind of what the whole theme of the show's been. And I'm like, for it to end so smoothly, so clean, like you don't lose any of these main characters, it's a total miss.
Exactly.
I can't believe that this is what happened. And I almost kind of feel like maybe the White Walkers aren't fully gone because it's so unbelievable. But
yeah,
we watch it. They're gone.
Watch them all. We watched them all die. I thought my prediction, my hope, because we talked about this in the last episode. I was not I did not have high hopes for this episode because of just the fact that it was going to end, the fact that we knew it had to end. So that for me was already a spoiler. So I came into this not really afraid of anything that was going to happen. All I was hoping for is the saving grace was going to be if they killed off a bunch of main characters. That was the only way that was going to be an A+ for me, because I was like, okay, the fight, the drama of the fight is kind of cut short because we have to keep moving the story, but you could at least kill some characters we've grown to love. They couldn't even do that. And for just I don't know, like, Jon didn't even get a like, what was Jon doing? Like, he was just yelling at the dragon? Like,
Yeah,
that was his plan? Was just to scream at the dragon?
It was so bizarre.
Arya comes out of nowhere to just jump behind the Night King, which I thought was dumb. And the scene was cool, but, like, personally, I thought it would have been a great moment that I thought Bran was going to die. I was hoping Bran was going to die in terms of, like, Bran would lure out the Night King. He would sacrifice himself. Because what is Bran's arc without the Night King? The three-eyed raven has no purpose. I know he's, like, the memories of men. Right. But he essentially has no purpose in terms of just, like, drama and thematic character bits. Unless I could be wrong, but the way that this is trending. I personally just thought it would have been a great moment for the Night King to kill Bran, and that would have been a super dramatic moment, and then whoever kills the Night King does it in, like, revenge. Yeah. And it's kind of like a messy battle where they're just going at him with this complete rage, and, like, the Night King's just not prepared for it because he won, so he's not ready. And then they kill him because, like, if Bran dies and the memories of all men die, it kind of goes along with whoever becomes the king or whoever sits on the throne, going with the whole we're going to break the wheel bit. Yep. It's kind of like a restart of history, or it's like a new age. So I thought that would have been a perfect way to kind of, like, everything that has happened is gone, like, kill the past. The past has been killed. All we can do is look forward and try to build a better world. So, like, metaphorically, that happens with the death of Bran and the death of all memories. Yeah, but then that would kind of ease in, you know? So I was incredibly disappointed that, like, that scene, I kind of left, I was like, yeah, this is this is okay.
So I listened, actually, this weekend to That Weekend, Travis Scott, SZA, or whoever, track, right? And, you know, it's really telling of this series, like, listening to that album. So that album was very pop music, like, rap artists for Game of Thrones, and this season's really showing that that's where this show's become. That it's become more of almost a money grab. It's become more of, like, fan service, if you will. Even if, and I don't think when I say fan service, I don't mean the people who have been watching all along. It seems as this has become fan service for those who have binge watched the show. Because if you binge watch the show, I think you think that the White Walkers are the most important thing. I think you think, you know, Jon and Daenerys are, oh my God, they're these great characters, and they're the cream of the crop. And if you haven't, you realize that this has always been about the throne, and that the White Walkers have this important role in it, but you don't just expect / hope that it would end this way, because you want more stakes. And even though it hurts to see the characters you love go, it means so much more when the characters you love go, because it means, okay, now we have something to fight for.
Exactly, yeah.
And
the stakes are higher, the characters have more purpose in what they're doing. And there's nothing better than tragedy in a show where there's just the gaping hole left behind by a character that didn't get to do what they, sought out to do.
Samwell was so pathetic.
Oh, God.
This entire episode.
Sam and Clegane. The Hound is a pain in the ass. Dude, I hate him.
But it doesn't make any sense, because up until this point, man, they've had, like, this entire, like, character arc. Like Sam was, like, this weak, like, fragile, I'm scared of everything character, and he had this big arc where he kills his White Walker. He sticks up for Gilly against his father. He walks away. He decides to learn at the Citadel. He walks back to the wall, tells him this is what you have to do. He even stands up to Daenerys Targaryen, and then this is how he behaves in the final, like, moments that could have potentially been of his life.
He also, like, elected to go out there too, I think. Didn't he say, I'll fight on the wall?
Yeah,
like, dude, anytime a character causes another character to die because they're on the ground and they need help up, like the scene where his buddy Ed died, I hate that character. I'm like, you are a lame piece of garbage.
Oh, it was awful. And then they've treated the Mountain.
No, the Mountain's the brother.
The Hound. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I caught myself. The Hound. I actually, one of my major predictions, I think they're going to have a big battle scene between each other, the Mountain and the Hound.
They have to, yeah.
But that's for another take. But so the Hound, I thought even him, like we talked about it last podcast, was that he has had this arc as well, where it's like he he clearly loves Arya. I don't know if it's a romantic thing or if like a fatherly thing. I take it more as a fatherly thing.
Same.
And I think he loves her to this extent where he's willing to do whatever. And I know he's scared of fire, which makes sense, which is why I kind of gave it a pass. As like he's scared of fire, this isn't his element, which is totally fine. He's scared of fire. We know that. But I think the way he came out so courageously for Arya, that's why I was like, okay, I accept it. But I thought, once he had did that, I think from that point on, he should have been all in about, like, we're taking these White Walkers down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It seemed it felt like he was going to have something to fight for, and then he just didn't.
Right.
You're like, okay, cool.
And it was so weird that Melisandre just kind of came out of nowhere when they were all in that room.
That was, no, it was kind of crazy that she came out of nowhere to start the episode.
Oh, yeah,
she just comes out, like, I thought she was a White Walker, and we're like, wait, how did you show up? How did they let you walk over here?
So bizarre.
That's a couple other questions I have.
Yeah, but you know what? We're at about 25 minutes. We didn't want to go too over in this podcast just because, there's so much you can say. We really want to hear what other people have to say, their feedback. We'd love to hear. Let us know. Comment below. We're actually right now on Apple, Google, the whole works. You can find us anywhere, but always find us at anchor.com. But I just wanted to speak real quick on one of the positive things about the episode. And one of the positive things I really loved was Lady Mormont's death. Because
that was so cool.
All the characters, I mean, it was so sad, but I was like, this is a David versus Goliath moment. And I was like, oh, there's no way she survives this. But she's not gonna go out like Jon Snow. She's not gonna go out. She's not gonna go out like Daenerys or any of these other characters. Lady Mormont is the realest character in this entire show.
Facts, bro. Facts.
And the fact that she was getting squeezed out of her life, and I was like, oh no, please, please. And she kills the giant. I was like, yes, you can. It was like that moment where you take your fingers over someone's eyes and put it down, like. Rest, my sweet prince, rest. Oh,
yeah, yo, she was the OG, yo. She had heart, and she just jammed it right in that guy's eye. It was dope. I was so satisfied when she died that way, because I was.
What was your positive take from this episode?
Positive take. I don't know, man, because there was some good combat scenes, but like I said before, there were no stakes. I never felt like there were some cool moments, like when the first wave attacked. When all the Dothraki died, you're like, that was visually terrifying. That was awesome.
Yeah.
When the tidal wave swarmed the soldiers and the fog was coming in, that was very cool. And then when the White Walkers just started laying their bodies down on the fire, so they could cross.
Oh yeah,
that was a pretty dope moment. That was.
But it felt like a missed opportunity too. Again, because like they had did that, but it didn't feel like it wasn't like they had did it, but we didn't feel like it meant much because we were like, oh, our heroes are gonna survive this anyway. So
I think it was just cool weird to see that, because that happens in zombie movies a lot when there's a moment of peace and you're like, okay, we're saved, we're at least we can chill out for now, and then it's like, no, you can't, you gotta fight. And then once they hopped over the wall, there were just some cool scenes of just battle, but doesn't mean anything since nobody significant died.
Yeah, so. and when the Night King had stopped in that moment when Jon was chasing him, I thought that would have been a perfect moment for, again, like we said earlier in the podcast, a fight scene between them that Jon loses. But when he raises the army, there's no way that Jon should have survived unless the Night King wanted him to survive. You know what I mean? And in a trap type of way. And it felt like it almost felt the entire episode like the Night King knew, like, look, we could win this battle easily, but I don't care about Jon. Jon might have the name, Daenerys might have the name, all these major characters might have the name, but all that matters to me is Bran. And it's weird. I don't know if I imagine. I know this season to me has been a total flop so far. Yep. I know the critics love it, and there's a lot of fan service, but it's been a total flop to me. But up until this point, the writers have been very, very good. So I hope that we get some type of explanation, like, why did the Night King want Bran so badly? Like we don't even know.
He already described that in the previous episode. The Night King is death. The Night King symbolizes the great winter, the death of man. And Bran, being a three-eyed raven, what the three-eyed raven was described by Bran last episode is that he's the memory of all men. Like we've seen before when the original three-eyed raven was training him, when he went back and he saw Hodor, when he went back and found out Jon's lineage. He has all the powers of... He's supposed to be just the memory of all men, because like Sam said, what is life without memory?
Right.
Without memory, we are cold and we are dead. So the Night King, not only did he want to kill just all the living, but he wanted to destroy all memory of man too.
Right.
Which is why when you were saying that he knows the name, I don't think he cares about whose name is what. I don't think he cares about the Targaryens. I don't think he has any relation to the Targaryens.
Right.
He was just the first... He was one of the first men that was converted by the tree fairies to fight men. And what happened is that his power grew too strong and he wanted to kill all life.
Right, but no, I totally understand that he doesn't care about the names and all that stuff. That was my point why I think that maybe he didn't really give his full energy towards Jon. Like, to us, Jon's an important character. To him, Jon is just another human. But the reason, and I know that, you know, it's almost like Bran is light and he is evil, or vice versa. But I still felt like, you know, even if he did kill Bran, if it was that easy to kill him with just a sword by Arya, I don't know if that's exactly, you know, like destroying all memory of men, because I feel like his focus should have been, let's destroy and kill all these all these humans in my way. That way there are no memories.
Exactly.
And get Bran. You know what I mean? So to leave Jon open right there and like not go after him is just, it's just bizarre. It's so weird.
Okay. With that take, I agree. I do think I think they approached it like he was way too single-minded.
Yeah.
For a character that has existed for a millennia,
so complex
and
too,
has had so much time to prepare, they treated him like an idiot, where he just walks out in the open. Like, anytime a character is gonna do something bad and they take like the longest period to pull out their sword and walk up to the guy all dramatically, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's so unrealistic. Like, if this is the person you've spent millennia preparing to kill, why don't you just run up with your gang and just, like, stab him to death? Like, jeez. Like, we have criminals in the real world that, you know, care more about killing, like, non-important people than these villains care about killing the freaking heroes.
Right, and I get it.
Yeah,
go ahead. No, finish.
I just wanted to say quickly before, because I know we got to wrap up here.
Right.
But on the topic of you saying Jon should have never survived, I'm so pissed that Daenerys comes in, saves him, and then she gets swarmed by zombies. Her freaking dragon flies off covered in zombies. Ugh. So Jorah comes out of nowhere. So both Jon, Daenerys, and then even the dragon survives. It's like, are you serious?
Wait, the dragon survived?
The dragon flew back. Remember, he flew back and he sat with her. I'm like, even the dragon survived.
Oh, are you kidding
me?
No.
I think the other dragon survived too. The one that it wasn't. I think two.
That was another thing that annoyed me as well, because I was like, so Jon's dragon's just like gone, and I thought
he fell or something.
I thought it was I was confused by that moment as well with Tyrion and Sansa. Was that supposed to be they were going to take their own lives, or they're going to like, let's just fight to the death type of thing?
It was supposed to be a fight to the death, but then that never happened. They just ran to cuddle with the other people. Then they played off their romance or something, like there was a romance. So now I'm just like,
I don't know.
I'm just kind of flabbergasted. I'm like, what is...
The only victory I can take from this is everyone was telling me that coworkers were saying things like, oh, you know, I think Theon and Sansa are going to have a thing. I was like, nah.
Yeah, that's the only satisfaction. Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this podcast. This is the last podcast on Earth. Please comment below what you think about this podcast episode. Share with your friends. We are on Google, Apple Music, Spotify, and always on Anchor. And I'm pretty sure we are everywhere else. Is that right, Skywalker?
Yeah, we're gonna make our YouTube channel's in the works.
Sweet. All right.
So stay tuned.
So that'll do it for this episode. I'm Miss Robot.
I'm Skywalker.
Signing out. Peace.
Peace.